Well, hello, everybody out there in Facebook land. Happy Wednesday, happy hump day, middle of the week from your friends here at the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce. We have some great partners with us today, so we're excited to share. But my name is Shannon, and we have been bringing to you live this month a whole series based around Trade Builds New Mexico and the importance of knowing the trade industry. People say, well, wait a minute, why do I need to know about trade? Well, the reason is because trade affects every level of business, not just the business owner, but it also affects the consumer. And so we think it's important that we share with you guys all of this information. And you never know, somebody might have an aha moment and decide they want to scale their business outside of the borders, or a consumer might say, oh, I understand now, and have a deeper understanding and appreciation of how important trade is. And, we've been showing a burger graphic that has been working out really well. We've had a lot of people comment on it because it really does talk about the importance of trade, and it speaks in a basic level for all of us to understand more about that. So we'll see if we're going to have time for that graphic today. But I just want to go through a few things before we get started. Let some people hop on. First and foremost, I want to thank our partners for this month for bringing us together to put this important topic out to all of you guys. And that is the Libra Initiative. And so in a minute, we're going to meet Ruben, who is heading up this project. And so we're super excited and very thankful to have him on board. I also want to thank New Mexico Tech, which has partnered with us for over 4 months now, doing all of our Zoom technology, our recording, our cloud stuff, and making sure that we bring to you guys the best that we can when it comes to sharing information. So our partnership with Carlos Romero, who sits on our board, along with his team, is vitally important. So I want to thank you to the elves behind the scene. And of course, our very own Angelique, who's always hiding back there to help us make sure we have a great webinar. So thank you to all of them. So again, we're going to get started here, guys. You can find all of these webinars, not just this month, but all the months, on our webpage at www.ahcnm.org. 2 things to know. You can click the COVID link up top, and you are looking for the Libra Initiative link, which has everything to do with trade this month. So you can find all of those there. And something else that I think is important is we are also staying very current and up to date what is happening with COVID and how that affects your business, including your business if you're involved in trade. So stay tuned to that website. And also, we're going to talk to Ruben here in just a minute. There is a new website that is out that is really helping to further the cause and the distribution of information when it comes to trade and the importance of import, export, all the new treaties and agreements that are being signed, and there's a place that you can find all that. So with that being said, I'd love to bring up to introduce Mr. Ruben, who is with the LIBRE Initiative, who is our official partner, and also to talk a little bit about our panelists. And if you could just spend some time as well, Ruben, talking about that for the people that are going to have to leave early, and I don't want to wait till the end this time to share with you about the new website.
Right. Thanks, Shannon, first for the introduction. And my name is Ruben Guajardo. I was born and raised in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Albuquerque proud, New Mexico proud, graduate of the University of New Mexico School of Law. And so I'm really happy to be all about this community. And it's kind of funny, everything that we're doing here, just it all comes back to certain things that and connections and all that stuff, we have when we're growing up. But it's amazing. Love the business community here, and love business owners. I am currently the community engagement director for the Libra Initiative in New Mexico. And we focus primarily on the Hispanic community, but on New Mexicans at large, focus on breaking barriers, both internal and external barriers. And this month specifically, we're proud to sponsor with the Hispano Chamber of Commerce this effort we're calling Trade Builds New Mexico, to talk about the barriers that exist for business owners and for consumers when it comes to trade and tariffs and all of that kind of stuff. So it's very exciting. As you mentioned before, we already launched our website that is kind of going in conjunction with this initiative. That is www.tradebuildsnewmexico.com. That's tradebuildsnewmexico.com. And we would love for you guys to get in touch with us. There you'll find our mission, our vision, kind of what we're about, what we're trying to accomplish with this effort. And we're really looking for some businesses that we can partner with and highlight some of the stuff they're doing and how trade has affected them and how they're kind of navigating this whole trade world. not just how they would regularly, but even in this COVID situation. And so it's absolutely fantastic. The topic today specifically, Shannon, if I'm not mistaken, is manufacturing. And so I am very excited to hear from our expert panelists today, both Rodney and Gerry. And also we're very excited to have Dwayne Lester from one of our partner organizations, Grassroots Leadership Academy, who's going to be entering in the discussion as well. Dwayne, if you're there, I'd like for you to go ahead and say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm in the Midwest right now. It's 1 o'clock here. I don't even know what time it is there. I had no idea math was going to be involved in this, but trade is one of those things that I'm really passionate about. I love the topic and I love the discussion. I just want to thank you for inviting me to be a part of this.
Thank you, Dwayne, and we'll be getting to you shortly. It's always nice to have another perspective. Welcome to the panel. We're excited to have you and excited to hear from you. I'm just going to go right around the list here, and next to me is Gerry. Gerry, can you please introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Yes, I'm Gerry Pacheco. I'm the Executive Director of the International Business Accelerator, which is New Mexico's only trade counseling program. We're legislatively funded, and we're part of the New Mexico Small Business Development Centers Network. So free of charge, we help companies explore global markets. We facilitate, we hold their hand, we help them get paid, we help mitigate if there's problems. And I'm also the president of the Border Industrial Association, which represents the Santa Teresa industrial parks. So we have about 62 companies down here. Most are manufacturers, warehouse, distribution, and we advocate for the industrial base. We are liaison with our counterparts in Mexico, Customs and Border Protection, and we support the growth of this industry over here.
Well, thank you, Gerry. And for those of you out there that are just joining us and still wondering what's going on, we're talking about trade this whole month, at least twice a week with our partners, the LIBRE Initiative. And we think that it's important that you guys understand, Gerry just spoke about some of the work that he's doing in the southern part of New Mexico. And that Santa Teresa zone area is very, very important to the trade that we do, not just with our neighbors to the south, but around the world. So stay tuned, guys. We have more coming from Gerry. And so I'm going to move over to the next side over here. We have Mr. Rodney Harrington. Rodney, if you could introduce yourself, tell us about your company and what you do.
Okay, well, Rodney Harrington, I'm CEO of Aqua Research. We're a 10-year-old startup, I guess. And I've been here personally in Albuquerque for 25 years and raised my family and everything here. And so we develop water technologies primarily for healthcare facilities in developing countries, individuals in developing countries, disaster relief, things like that. So, we've got a number of employees here locally here in Albuquerque. So, and we manufacture most of the products here and then ship them worldwide.
Well, we are definitely excited to hear more about that. Today's topic is, like Ruben said, manufacturing and how that affects and what role does that play in manufacturing. And so I think to start off the conversation, just to give us a little bit of a background and a flow, I want to head over to Gerry. Gerry has extensive background in manufacturing and understanding what that means and how that affects trade. So Gerry, if you could just start us off with the conversation about all of your experience and all of your knowledge working in the Santa Teresa zone.
Well, I've been working in Santa Teresa. This is my 29th year involved in this project. So we've seen it go from a barbed wire fence with an airport way back in 1991 to an industrial base. We have New Mexico's largest industrial base. The Santa Teresa region accounts for more than half of the state's global exports, which is an amazing thing because the sleepy little community of Santa Teresa has got about 3,500 people, but our industrial base has about 5,000 employees, which we represent with the Border Industrial Association. Our strategy has been to take advantage of our proximity to Mexico. And as in the old days, I say in the old days, 20 years ago, you could be in Chicago, and if you're shipping a component to your buyer in Mexico, let's say a Ford or a GM or a Wistron, you could take 4 or 5 days to get your product to your buyer, your manufacturer. As time went on, supply chains tightened. That 5 days went to 4 days, went to 3 days, went to 2 days. Now we have suppliers for Foxconn. Foxconn's right on the other side of the border of Santa Teresa. Foxconn's building Dell computers and HP tablets. They're making 70,000 units a day, if you can imagine, 70,000 a day. If you've bought an HP tablet or a Dell computer, it comes out of here. Well, Foxconn demands from some of its suppliers a 3-hour turnaround. So that means that you can't be in Chicago anymore. You've got to be right on the border. And a lot of the Mexican maquiladoras, the plants down there making product, would prefer you be at their back dock. But most American suppliers don't tend to go into Mexico because they're more comfortable with this side of the border. So our strategy has been, we're building a supply base to the maquiladora industry. Out of all of the companies that 62 companies or so that we have in these parks, only 2 are native New Mexicans. Every single one of the other ones has been recruited from out of state or out of country. So we have firms from Canada, Japan, we have firms from Turkey, Sweden, we have Mexican firms. It runs the gamut, what we have down here. And we built this supply base because of what's going on with NAFTA, what's going on with Mexico, and we're part of the global supply chain. A lot of people don't realize when I say, did you realize that New Mexico has a big automotive manufacturing industry? And they'll look at me like I've grown horns in my head. And they're waiting for the punchline. There is no punchline. In Santa Teresa, we've got FXI, touch your headliner in your car. It's made here. Next door to me, we've got Southwest Steel Coil. They supply raw steel coil that goes into all sorts of metal fabrication that ends up in automobiles. So you got C and Wire making copper cable, copper wire rather.
That hamburger.
What's that?
Go ahead, Gerry, you're good.
Okay, yeah, so we got C and Wire making the copper wire. Right next to them is North Wire. They make the wire components. Across from them is Acme Mills. They make the textiles for your car seats. Behind them is Continental, a German company that makes auto sensors. Then you've got behind them DA Inc., a Japanese company that makes plastic injection like for companies like Toyota. So we're part of that global supply chain and with a manufacturing base here. And our strategy has been to attract those businesses based on our proximity to Mexico. We also have very, very good incentives at the statewide level to attract these companies. So that's our story down here.
Wow, Gerry, thank you so much for that opening. I think that we all learned a little bit immediately, especially if you're just tuning in and trying to wonder, where do I fit into this? Do I need to know about trade? Is it important to what I do with my business or as a consumer? And I think Gerry just answered the question. Before we move on, I know we have a slide deck and we do have a presentation we want to do. And I don't know if Dwayne or Ruben might be best, but I want to go back to that hamburger. That's what I was reaching out to Angelique for. I think I hit the mute button. Hamburger graphic, because I think it's important for just in always, I say in layman's terms, for people to understand, you know, when they do something very basic, like purchase a burger and take a bite of it, where does that burger come from? How is that burger built? It's not just happening in the kitchen of the restaurant that you ordered it from. There's actually a process to how they garnered those products and how they put those together, and the supply chain that it took to put that burger together. And so it's a short little mini presentation. I'm wondering if Ruben or Dwayne, we're going to pull that up here now, if one of you guys would like to take on the task today of explaining the burger.
So yeah, I'll go ahead and take a shot at it. We've looked at this multiple times, but just so that everyone can see and get a good fresh reminder, even when we're doing something as simple as eating our burger, we have no idea just how many companies, how many people, how much of the supply chain was involved in that process and getting it to us. And so we look at like the bun that came from California, or we can see that cattle, where we get the beef from, you know, the cattle was probably conceived in Mexico and born in Canada, raised in Nebraska and processed in Colorado. You're talking about 4 different locations just to create the beef patties that we eat in our burgers. The cheese can come from all the way like a place in Wisconsin. Or, you know, some of our great Mexican style burgers closer to home we get cheese from Mexico, and there's lots of great cheeses in northern Mexico that we get from as well. You know, the bacon can come from places all over as well, and often it's processed here in the United States and Iowa. And then we can talk about just something like guacamole, not just the avocado or the aguacate that goes into it, but if we make something like guacamole, look how many places are involved just in creating that secret special sauce that we love to put on our burgers. You know, we got the avocado from Michoacan, we have jalapenos from Chihuahua, garlic from Zacatecas, the tomato from Ontario, Canada, white onion from Colorado, cilantro from California, lime juice from Colima. And so then we talk about the condiments, or we talk about the stuff that we put on. Ketchup from Ohio, onions from Washington, mushrooms all the way from British Columbia, tomatoes from Ontario, and of course, to top it off, our green chili from Hatch, New Mexico. And so all of these things have to come together in order for you to get what you get at your local burger joint. It's just it's a phenomenal thing to have to come to the conception of, or to be able to conceive, once you really think about the process and how many people are involved in making that happen.
This is a great graphic. This is the first time I've seen this graphic, but it's a great graphic. And there are two things that came to mind looking at it. First of all, I thought that the best green chilies came from Colorado. Was I wrong there?
Oh, he did not just go there.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I know.
You got a panel of New Mexicans here, Dwayne.
Oh, boy.
I know. I last time I was in New Mexico, I was made aware of this battle between New Mexico and Colorado.
It's not a battle. It's not a battle. New Mexico
It's not
the best chili. There's
not
no
a competition.
Anyway, I thought I'd throw that out there, but it reminded me of a YouTube video that I watched recently when talking about trade. This guy wanted to build his own chicken sandwich. He wanted to know how much it would cost to build his own chicken sandwich. And when I say build it, I mean he wanted to plant wheat and use the wheat that he grows to make flour and turn that flour into a bun. And so without trading with anyone, could he build his own chicken sandwich? I mean, just a simple chicken sandwich that we can go down to the store and buy the stuff for and have a chicken sandwich in no time for probably less than $5. This guy spent 6 months and $1,500 to make a chicken sandwich by himself. He had, and believe me, that's not even all the expense, because he flew from where he was at to the ocean to get salt water, to fly back to get salt. But he didn't have to develop the jet fuel. He didn't have to build an airplane. So that's cost that he didn't put in there. When we trade, we can get things like burgers at a minimal cost. But if we don't trade, I mean, 6 months and $1,500 for a chicken sandwich. It put things in perspective.
Well, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because every time we bring up the burger, and I know there's some other examples out there, and guys, I promise we're going to find a new one for you for next week. But the burger, I'm like a giddy little schoolgirl, because I'm like, maybe it's because I like burgers, but I think it's because how exciting to see that every time you bite into a burger, I mean, it's not, it's not like you said, it's growing the wheat. It's where does all these products come from? And talk about manufacturing, which is our topic today, manufacturing. And one thing that's super exciting is, Ruben was talking about onions. And if you guys notice, you have white onions from Mexico and red onions from Washington, I believe it said, or something along those lines. And so there's even different types of the same product. And again, this is all about how, when you manufacture, you promote trade, whether it's in-state or out of the country, and how these come together to put a product, whether it's the computers that Gerry talked about, the burger example that we just gave you, and now this incredible story of the chicken sandwich, which is my new story. I'm going to just beat that one to death, because what a great story. That is why we are doing this webinar series and these topics. So with that being said, Ruben, before we get to Rodney, I'd love to tap into the presentation that you have to share a little bit about manufacturing, the importance of what it does. And then we definitely want to give Rodney a few minutes to prepare, because we're going to really dive into your business, and we're going to talk about what you do and how it provides not just jobs, but essential needs around the not just the community. So Ruben, we're going to pull that up here in just a second if you'd like to start us off.
Yeah, if you go to, I think it's page 7 in the deck, there's just a couple bullet points I want to mention real quick to kind of help people maybe open their eyes a little bit to how manufacturing affects New Mexico and New Mexicans, both business owners and consumers. A couple things I'll start with. In 2018, New Mexico exported 3.5 billion with a B dollars of manufactured products. And I don't think people really realize sometimes just how big of an endeavor this is. New Mexico exports of manufactured products supported an estimated 14,000 jobs in 2016. So a lot of people are employed in this industry and in this sector. The state's largest manufacturing export category is computer and electronic products, which actually surprised me. It wasn't something that I knew of prior to having read these stats, and which also accounted for 2 billion of New Mexico's total goods and exports in 2018. And then other top manufacturing exports are miscellaneous manufactured commodities, it's 217 million, transportation equipment, 215 million, other fabricated metals, which is 193 million, and electrical equipment, appliances, and components at 172 million. And so we are very much in New Mexico engaged in manufacturing, and it affects people at all levels and all sectors of business and society in our state.
If I can just build on that too, I want to point out, you know, now that I heard Gerry talk about Foxconn being right across the border, it makes sense that almost or over half of the manufacturing exports are computer parts or electronics going to that factory where they're being assembled. And when we'll hear some folks talk about an imbalance of trade and how bad that is, but when you look at what's going on just in New Mexico, you can see how really irrelevant that stat is, because we have parts that are leaving New Mexico as exports going to Mexico where they're being assembled in a factory and then imported back into America, but they're called exports or imports from Mexico when they actually were just in America before they were putting this part that comes from Mexico assembled with other parts from all over the country, some of which may have been from America down in there. And now we've got one thing coming in, but it's all supposedly coming from Mexico. When you can see the supply chain is so complex and so integrated, who knows where this thing is actually from? All we know is it was assembled in Mexico. So when you start putting barriers up for products coming into the country, you're putting at risk those 14,000 jobs that hardworking New Mexicans have, because now the exports that are going to that are having a harder time getting back in where they're needed. So there's what's seen and there's what's unseen. And what's unseen is often the people in New Mexico who are hurt by barriers put in place on trade.
And Dwayne, we could take it one step further. Once it re-enters the country, it then gets exported out to the countries that are making purchases of those products, and particularly the computers here. So it is a very complex supply chain when it comes to manufacturing, and who's manufacturing the parts that go into those products that are being shipped all over the world in many different ways, whether it's by the part or by the completed product. And so it is very important to understand that no matter how you slice it, it's jobs. It's the jobs. These, when we put restrictions at the borders and we put, heavy limitations on what we can do, that's affecting not just the small business or the business owners, but the people that they employ, the communities in which they live in. And again, so we're talking about very complex issues, but we're trying to break it down for people to understand as a consumer and the consumer side of things, how important this is. When you guys pick up your iPhone, you're working on your laptop like we're doing right now, and we're using all this incredible technology like cameras from our phones and all of that, our laptops and the speakers, and so much goes into building these products that we absolutely cannot live without. And so it's important to recognize all of that. And so speaking of products that we cannot live without, there is communities around the world that need stuff. And Rodney's company and what they do and manufacture is definitely something that's important that we talk about. He fits perfect within this topic. So Rodney, I want to turn it over to you for a little bit. We'd love for you to share with us specifically about what you guys do, get us in depth about the products that you're doing, and then let's talk about the manufacturing of those products, and then we want to close up with some of the countries that are receiving the benefit of your products.
Okay. Angelique, if you'll put the slides up that I sent you. Okay, so we develop water technologies and sell them worldwide. And am I got control of the slides, or is that Angelique? Next slide. Okay. So we were founded in 2010 here in Albuquerque. We make drinking water and sanitation products. Electrolytic, it's basically converting salt to chlorine. And we do that for low income and healthcare settings in developing countries. We've got a lot of work going on in Haiti and Africa, Southeast Asia and Japan, Central and South America. We're exporting stuff to all these locations, and then disasters worldwide. So most of our sales are shipment outside the US, or not in New Mexico. We don't have a lot of sales in the state itself. So most everything we do is exported, to foreign countries. So anyway, a lot of it is purchased by non-government organizations, or it's purchased directly by governments in those countries. So some of the NGOs, non-government organizations we work with, Operation Blessing International, PATH out of Seattle, Catholic Relief Services, very large NGO organizations, Caris Foundation, and many others. And we're a startup funded by family and angel investors, mostly New Mexico investors, but some outside the state. Next slide. Okay, so some of the products we have here, the first one is a little H2O purifier. This little girl is holding up a purifier that was distributed in Nepal in the earthquake there by Operation Blessing. But it's a little low-cost device, 4 ounces, handheld. It'll make 10 gallons of water safe per day from any surface water source. And the cost is 50 cents a year in salt. It's ubiquitous, salt's ubiquitous. Nobody's having to go buy it specifically for this product. Anybody we've gone to anywhere in the world has been able to provide salt to make this little thing run. So 50 cents a year, that's a Morton's container of salt for a year operation. And it's rechargeable and solar powered. So there's nothing other than salt to make your water safe in developing countries. And we sell them in the outdoor markets as well. The stream system is a community-based disinfection unit that will treat 60,000 gallons of water a day of drinking water. Or for use, we use a lot of them in healthcare settings to make sanitation or a sanitizer for cleaning healthcare facilities. And it makes chlorine using salt again, and any source of power, 110, 220, 12-volt car battery, solar panel, and it's very portable and durable. So it's about the size of a briefcase. The item on the right is a 5-gallon jerry can type thing. It's got an ultra filter, which filters out everything in the water. It doesn't take out salt. It's not reverse osmosis, but it's a very tight membrane that removes virus, bacteria, protozoa, and all dirt. So you fill this thing with water from any lake, river, or stream. You pump it up to get a little pressure to drive it through the membrane. You open the valve on it, and out comes clean, safe drinking water. So those are some of the products that we manufacture, and most of it we manufacture here in Albuquerque. There's some of it manufactured overseas, and we do have the tariff issues associated with that, both shipping this stuff in and out. And then next slide. So this is an example of the stream unit in Haiti. And the Caris Foundation bought a number of these. You can see them lined up on the table. And they're making disinfectant from salt to put in bottles and ship to 168 healthcare facilities throughout Haiti. And this is under a USAID funded program. Caris Foundation has a $100 million contract with USAID to improve sanitation in these healthcare facilities in Haiti. So we're supporting them with these systems and some larger systems we're currently manufacturing for them. Next slide. Okay, so we manufacture here at our facility in Midway Park Place, that's behind the Centro Rio Theater area. We had 4 employees in January. We have 12 today. Now, COVID, quite frankly, created some nearer term demand, but we clearly did not start selling March this year for COVID. We had a lot of this already teed up with a lot of these NGOs, but I think COVID lends some urgency to current sales. So we're busy building stuff right now and trying to ramp up. And we subcontract to a lot of local companies, sheet metal fabrication, circuit board fabrication, you know, just a lot of components and parts like that. And then we also have a lot of local individuals, not, you know, they're individuals, CAD design, electronics design, electrical engineers, machinists to do pieces and parts, graphics design, marketing, web support, IT. We're not big enough company to support a full-time person in those areas. So we subcontract a lot of that to local individuals. So some components are made ex-US. We buy pieces and parts worldwide, including the US. So we're importing and then exporting products. So I think that was the last slide. But, you know, I'm very interested in making connection with Gerry Pacheco because we're talking about doing more of this stuff, yeah, you know, here locally in New Mexico or along the border. So we need to move some of it because we're not sure what the political situation holds with some of the large trading partners that we have now. I think we all know who we're talking about. So we're trying to move more locally, you know, some of these devices. So anyway.
So that was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all of that information about your company. So just a couple of questions that have come up. Do you have a website where a consumer could go in and purchase these products, or how do you do it, or do you just sell in bulk to the large contracts that you have?
No, we sell products at our website, aquaresearch.com. And then we sell on Amazon. You can find us on Amazon. And we sell through some of our handheld small products are available at REI and Sportsman's Warehouse, places like that. And then we sell a lot directly to non-government organizations. So we're doing a lot of work with NGOs. Right now, there's a lot of work going on in Africa and lots of different countries over there with PATH out of Seattle and Catholic Relief Services. So yeah, it's, you know, we're trying to get this technology deployed worldwide. There's 2 billion people on the planet. It's about a third of the people that don't have access to safe water. We believe we have the right solution. There's a lot of filters out there, but they fail without notice. People begin drinking bad water. Ours is disinfection. I mean, just as an example, in 1908, we started disinfecting water in the United States. People don't realize the mortality rate in 1900 in the United States. Average life expectancy was 47. By 1940, we had eliminated typhoid and cholera, and the life expectancy went to 63 years on chlorination and filtration of drinking water primarily. Chlorination is one of the greatest health interventions in our country. And it's so cheap to do worldwide. So we believe we have the right answer, but it's like anything, you have to get the word out, get the distribution and marketing and sales channels up to get this going. But it represents a huge opportunity for manufacturing here in New Mexico. We want to grow it.
So one more time, what was the name of that website so we can post it in the chat? I mean, post it in the Facebook Live.
Aqua, A-Q-U-A, research, RESEARCH.com.
aquaresearch.com. Okay, we're going to post that. So for those of you that were asking, that's how you can find them and find their products and connect if you need to. We're happy that we can connect you to Gerry, and we'll make sure that we share your guys' information to each other via email right after this this webinar. So that's always a good part of what we do here at the Chamber, which is connections and helping for people to grow and scale their business. But I have to say, Rodney, you know, again, getting back to the topic of today, which is manufacturing. First of all, I think it's amazing to meet businesses that are in the manufacturing business at your scale. That's large scale when you're talking global and worldwide, with the amount of staff you have, you know, and I think that needs to be commended. But I also think it's amazing that Probably most New Mexicans and Albuquerqueans do not know that that is happening right here in Albuquerque. And so take it from Rodney and his team, providing jobs, and not just the local jobs, but what does that supply chain look like again? And back to what Dwayne was talking about earlier. There's also a neighbor of yours, Rodney, who unfortunately couldn't make it on with us today. But Sombra USA, which is a huge manufacturer here as well, they're manufacturing, and shipping worldwide, and have been for, years and years and years. And so we're hoping to get them on a webinar soon. But again, big manufacturing happening here, and I don't think we know about that. So Gerry, I'd like to go back to you a little bit about that, and let's get back to touch base on the Santa Teresa area and some of the manufacturing that is happening there, maybe some of the companies. And again, I think it's just people relating to these companies. Dwayne right away connected, and he goes, oh, it makes sense that they're down there. And so I think maybe if you can talk about that a little bit.
All right, yeah. The scale of what we have down here is really big. I'll give you an example. We recruited from Turkey, the country of Turkey, a company called CN Wire. They manufacture 7 million pounds of copper wire a month, for example. So you do the math. Raw copper is at a certain level. You do some value added on it, and the price goes up. That's a lot of money, and they export primarily to Mexico, and a lot of that stuff goes into electronics and the computer consumer electronics industry. We've got, as I mentioned, FXI. If you could imagine a loaf that's maybe about 8 feet high and maybe 50 feet long, that's what they bake in there. And then they carve it like you would with a cheese knife and come up with these rolls that go into your headliner and all the soft stuff in your car, for example. Acme Mills, another one of our automotive companies, makes everything in a car seat that you don't see. When you reach under your car seat and you feel the fabric, that's what they make. We've got, if you have a Toro lawnmower, or I bet you that every single one of us in our kitchen has a refrigerator manufactured by Electrolux. There's not really an Electrolux brand, but they do manufacturing for other major brands. Well, here in Santa Teresa, we have Stanco Metal. Stanco makes the components for all the refrigerators, but it also, if you own a Toro lawnmower, you're going out and mowing your lawn this weekend, the bodies of the Toro lawnmowers are stamped here in Santa Teresa by Stanco Metals. Then you've got like Mallory Metals. They're a smaller mom and pop shop. About 50 employees or so. And they do everything from contract manufacturing for the Department of Defense to other smaller orders for private companies. There's a lot of manufacturing going on here. As one of our panelists spoke a while ago, we have quite a bit of that chunk of the electronics industry. If you can imagine, Foxconn has a system where they have one third-party logistics, which is a firm that takes care of logistics for another company. They receive the shipment of the components, they pick and pack them, and then ship them right across the border, 5 miles from where I am right now, and that goes into Foxconn. But you've also got CommScope. CommScope's got almost 300 employees. They manufacture every type of telecommunication system. Everything from satellite to the stuff that you plug into your wall at the house. They supply their maquiladora. They have 2 of them, one in Juarez and one in Delicias, which is south of Chihuahua City, with components, with raw material supplies. But then this distribution center that they have here also exports millions on a daily basis, millions across the world. So our challenge in Santa Teresa is that we're so far away from the state's biggest city. We're far away from Albuquerque, we're far away from the power base in Santa Fe. A lot of what we're doing doesn't really get broadcast to the rest of the state. If you can imagine, we have the state's largest industrial base. You can take the rest of, virtually the rest of the state, and it's about what we have here in Santa Teresa as an industrial base. There's billions of dollars. When we consider that our trade numbers are going to go up to about they're approaching 4 billion. You've got about 2 billion of that emanating here from Santa Teresa with these manufacturers. But let me make a point, because I want to make this relevant for the small businesses, because 80% of our businesses in New Mexico have 10 or less employees. It becomes almost boggling to think of the volume. Well, you don't have to be at that volume. You can do several things. Just like Rodney, that's a fascinating product there. I mean, I'm going to jump on the website and learn as much as I can. Plus, maybe I have contacts on the other side of the border in Mexico that might be interested in these products. But small manufacturers sometimes think it's daunting to go into the export world. They think they have to know everything about exporting, from freight forwarding to the legalities to getting paid. You don't need to know everything. You can bring experts into your circle to support you and make sure that you have a transaction that is safe, logical, you get paid, what have you. Our International Business Accelerator is there to do just that. Because if we don't have the answer internally, I can grab a customs broker, bring that person into the deal. We'll find out how much this costs. Is there a quota? Is there a tariff? Are there any port fees going in there? What have you. But let me mention one other thing for New Mexican companies that I get really excited about. About 3 years ago, I had a eureka moment. Every year we do a survey of the industrial base in Santa Teresa. We just completed one last week, by the way. We do a survey that asks, what's your employment numbers? Are you planning on hiring employees? What kind of categories? You know, and then we work with the local community college, NMSU, to try to find those employees from New Mexico to fill those jobs. But I thought to myself, well, wait a minute. We're like an island. We're like our own country amongst ourselves here in Santa Teresa. We have a production base that ships all over the world. Why can't we get New Mexican suppliers? You don't have to be a manufacturer. You can supply cleaning supplies. You can supply toilet paper. Can you supply pallets? My next door neighbors using 60,000 pallets a month over here, a month. And we're trying to get some New Mexican wood companies to consider an assembly here, because that's big business. But we have a program called Supply the Suppliers. We canvass what our industrial base is consuming. We put it in a spreadsheet, and then we send it out to all the economic development organizations across the state. And we want to bring New Mexican companies into this industrial base. And indirectly, they can be exporting. Not directly, let's say, to Mexico, but they could be exporting to a company in New Mexico that is using that product to keep their operations going forward. And we call that the Supply the Suppliers program. And anybody can go to our website and get a hold of us. And if you've got a product or even a service, we've had a company doing OSHA compliance here from Albuquerque, for example. We've had environmental remediation companies come in and work for companies. So you don't have to have necessarily a product. You could have a service. And we can try to match that up to see if that's needed in the industrial base. We can't guarantee you that you're going to get a contract, but I can guarantee you that I'll get people for you to talk to about entering your product in this industrial base. And we're happy to do that.
So, Gerry, so much valuable information when it comes to the importance of manufacturing. First and foremost, thank you for your expertise and your knowledge, especially in the New Mexico trade world. That is super important. I do want to mention, you somewhere in your talk, you said, it's just incredible that, you have the biggest base of this manufacturing in New Mexico. And yeah, we're a little bit, Santa Teresa's right on the border, the Texas-Mexico, New Mexico border. And we're in Albuquerque, so we're definitely a 4.5 hour, car ride, if you will. It's not necessarily conducive for all products that are working, but nonetheless, it's in New Mexico. And I know that last year, it's been a year maybe or more, we actually took a field trip. And I hope that, when COVID opens up our lines of direct contact again, that we'll be able to set that up, where we actually went down to the Santa Teresa zone and were able to do a tour and teach business owners, small business owners, people that were more interested and wanted to learn more, to spend the day down there with Gerry and his team to do so. And so, we hope to do that again really soon, Gerry. So again, thank you so much for your expertise, so much great information. And again, I just implore everybody to go to Gerry's website. Gerry, what is the website so that we can post that?
We have a couple of websites. The IBA website's www.nmibr.com. IBA.com, like New Mexico International Business Accelerator.com.
Mhm.
And then our Border Industrial Association, which has more specific, the IBA is a statewide program. So although we're physically located here, we help companies from all over the state. But the Border Industrial Association is focused on the Santa Teresa industrial base. And that's www.nmbia, like Border Industrial Association.org. And you'll find a lot of information on our companies and the industrial base there.
Great, thank you. We're going to post those in the live feed, so people will have access to those. Even when they review back the video, they'll be able to do that. So I want to move over to Dwayne because I know that we started off talking about the burger that led to so many other conversations, and a lot of what Gerry said. Dwayne did make certain comments to kind of start the conversation. So just want to move over to Dwayne, talk a little bit about manufacturing before we start to close up the hour, because I believe that everybody on this panel, believe it or not, has a great passion for the manufacturing side of the trade business and how it does really literally epitomize build New Mexico. So Dwayne, take it over.
One thing that Gerry said that I thought was really profound and wanted to build on was he said, you don't have to know everything to do this. And the fact of the matter is, you can't know everything. You absolutely can't know everything that goes into it. So to use one of his examples, to bring someone in who's going to make pallets for somebody who's using 60,000 pallets, and that blew my mind because I'm thinking, how many couches could I make out of that pallet? That's the woodworker in me. But if you're going to be making pallets, you don't need to know what is the right fertilizer mixture to grow the specific tree that needs to go into that pallet, and what's the right time to harvest that tree, and what's the best lumber mill to take it. These are all things that are specialized, and that's the key to manufacturing is working with people's comparative advantage, seeking that specialization to work together in this entire system. And it's that specialization that makes it work. That's why we can go and we can buy a hamburger for anywhere from $2 to $7, depending on what you want that day. And that's why New Mexicans make the best green chilies in the country, right? Because they have that comparative advantage. You're welcome, over those people who pretend in Colorado. And when you are able to leverage a comparative advantage, you are able to really take the natural resources that you have and apply them to their best use. And that's what really this is all about, is taking the scarce resources that we have and using them to their best use to create the most value for the people, not only in New Mexico, but who are working at Foxconn across the border, who are then consuming what Foxconn produces. And when you put barriers in the way, you hurt everyone along that line. You make it more difficult for them to live their best lives. And while you can see some benefit to that in the one spot, it comes at the expense of others that you may not notice. And those barriers hurt. And that's why we need to get rid of them. I don't know if that's exactly what you were looking for, but that's where my mind went. So.
Well, it's great because we had a webinar. One of our previous webinars was on USMCA, and we actually spoke about a lot of that type of stuff. And I think what's really great about how this all comes together as one topic for the month is, along the lines of what Gerry said, a lot of what they do down there and a lot of what he does is really fights hard to make sure that we keep, the tariffs and the open borders when it comes to trade, things like that, available to the business community, the manufacturers and the suppliers. And we're not just talking Mexico. We're talking Mexico because Gerry's right there. But this happens with our Canadian friends, and of course, anything that we do overseas as well, even into South America. So I think it's important that, today we're talking about manufacturing. We were excited to highlight local manufacturing businesses, but this is happening all over the world, guys. This is so important, in bringing together the right collaborations of people and understanding. And I just hope that everybody that is watching this is thinking, man, do I have a product or even, like Gerry said, a service that could possibly be used in a way that would help? Maybe you're not necessarily in the international market, but you might have pallets that go to the people that are having to stack those, to crate them, to send them in containers and get them overseas or get them across the border. And how do you supply the supplier, as Gerry put it? And so it's been a really great talk that way. So Ruben, I want to just close up a little bit with you. Tell us about your final thoughts on this topic of manufacturing and what we want to leave the public with.
Thanks, Shannon. I'm just so grateful again to be a part of this series that we've been able to sponsor. And I think each webinar, it's so enlightening, and it's really cool that we're able to do this. And I'm getting educated. I know so many people are just learning so many things, especially about the specific topics. If we're not, focused or involved in these industries, sometimes we're just oblivious completely to them, completely oblivious to how much manufacturing plays a part in our economy here in New Mexico, and in all of the kind of business relationships that a lot of us have and participate in on a daily basis. Again, if you're a business who's involved in trade, or at some level has dealt with trade and tariffs, and is working in other countries, go to the website. We'd love to partner with you. We'd love to hear your story. We'd love to highlight what it is that you're doing, and get your information out there to other businesses. Like Shannon said, with the chamber here at the LIBRE Initiative, we're all about connecting people and getting people to be able to participate in what is best for themselves and their businesses. And so we would love to help you do that. The website again is www.tradebuildsnewmexico.com. That's tradebuildsnewmexico.com. And thanks again to Shannon and to everybody over at the chamber for helping us put this together. It's been absolutely awesome.
Thank you so much, Ruben. And we're going to pop that into the live feed as well, tradebuildsnewmexico.com. Rodney, we want to close up with you. You are special guest panelist today, sharing your small business story and your manufacturing story with us. So, we'd like to give you definitely the floor to take us out. But, if you could just tell us what manufacturing has meant to your business and the importance of what it means to what you do with your global economy within your business, I think it'll be a great segue out to other small businesses that are probably listening.
Well, definitely manufacturing is what we do. We believe we've got great products, but we have to make them, and we are making them here. We're not, I'm not going anywhere. I've got 5 kids and 10 grandkids, and we're not going anywhere. So we're going to do it here in New Mexico, in Albuquerque. If we can do more down in Santa Teresa area, that'd be great. So we're trying to, maintain control of our manufacturing and not get tied up in some of the politics and the costs associated with that, and the import and export costs, shipping. So if we can reduce a lot of that by moving it locally, more locally, then we certainly intend to do that. We're working in that. We've got new products coming out that we want to build here. So yeah, it's very important. I mean, manufacturing is key to what we do. We have to do that. So.
Well, we want to thank Rodney for joining us, and I want to leave you guys with this thought. Again, the topic of the month is Trade Builds New Mexico. Today's particular topic was manufacturing, but I want to leave you with what Rodney just said. He said, I'm not going anywhere. I've got kids and grandkids, and I believe he said like 10. There was a lot of grandkids. And so that is what we talk about when we say Builds New Mexico. Builds a community. He's not going anywhere. His business is here. He's going to employ here. He's going to manufacture here. He's going to continue to build his small business and grow it here. And that's what builds that community, his family. And so we just want you guys to be thinking, COVID has really offered us an opportunity to be creative in the way that we do business in this economy and in our communities, not just in New Mexico, but around the country, although, we're in New Mexico. So for us, that's important. And take this opportunity to think about, how could I grow my business? I know so many people that have amazing New Mexico products. Food products are really great products you can't get anywhere else but New Mexico. You've got to reach out to Gerry. You've got to get involved in the International Business Accelerator. You've got to figure out how to get your products into the hands of people around the world. Monday we met with a gentleman with a company called Europa, and he's actually importing. And you know, we're getting to eat and taste delicious treats from, you know, Bavaria and Georgia and different countries around the world. And that's the beauty of trade. And that's the beauty of learning about our world and our global economy. So again, I implore you guys, stay tuned. We have another great topic for you next Monday. We're excited to continue this. I'll be sad when it ends. To echo what Ruben said, we are all getting a PhD in things we never thought we would learn about or that we needed to know. But I think it's important that as a consumer, that you guys understand this. So thank you to Gerry. Thank you to Ruben. Thank you to Dwayne. We hope to have you again, Dwayne. Had a lot of fun today. And we'll make sure that Dwayne gets a real green chili cheeseburger. If we have to ship it to him, we will, because you can't have a green chili cheeseburger without Hatch green chili. It's our staple.
Happy to come down and get one.
You know, you're invited. As soon as this COVID thing is over, you are invited. We're going to make sure and get you the best burger in the city. And then, of course, thank you to Rodney. Thank you for sharing your story. We look forward to hopefully doing some work with you in the future as well. So everybody have a great day. We're halfway through the week. We can't wait till the weekend, but we will see you guys next week on Monday for a new topic in Trade Builds New Mexico. Thank you to Libra, and thank you to our partners at New Mexico Tech. You guys have a great week.
See everyone next week.
Bye-bye.